Learn 30 words easily, each one repeated 3 times in short, fun stories. Story: The Big Move. Sophie received a job offer in New York. It was her dream role, yet she felt ambivalent, excited about the opportunity, but anxious about leaving her hometown. As she packed her bags, her ambivalent feelings grew stronger. She was thrilled about the new adventure, but sad to part with her family and friends. On the flight, Sophie smiled, realizing that being ambivalent was natural when making life-changing decisions. Ambivalent. Adjective, meaning in this story: having mixed or conflicting feelings about something. Think of it like standing at a crossroads, eager to explore a new path, but hesitant to leave the familiar one behind. Follow-up question: have you ever felt ambivalent about a major decision, like moving to a new place or starting a new job? Story: The Speech. Darren hated public speaking, but he had no choice. He had to give the final speech at graduation. He practiced every night, hoping to sound eloquent, like the speakers he admired online. On the big day, he took a deep breath and spoke from the heart. His words were simple but strong. People clapped. One teacher said that was an eloquent speech. Later, his best friend smiled and said, "You've always had an eloquent way of saying what matters." Vocabulary: eloquent. Meaning in this story: able to express ideas clearly and beautifully, especially in speaking or writing. Think of it like when someone speaks and their words make people stop, listen, and feel something, even if the words are simple. Follow-up question: have you ever heard someone give an eloquent speech or message that stayed with you? Ready for the next word. Cogent. Story: the debate winner. Lena was nervous before the debate. Her topic wasn't popular, but she believed in it. When it was her turn, she stayed calm and gave a cogent argument, clear, organized, and powerful. The other team spoke longer, but Lena's cogent points made the judges take notice. After the debate, one judge said, "Your ideas were short, but very cogent. You made your case well." Cogent. Meaning in this story: strong, clear, and convincing, especially when talking or writing about ideas. Think of it like a puzzle piece that fits perfectly, when someone's argument or opinion just makes complete sense. Follow-up question: have you ever tried to make a cogent point during a discussion or argument? How did it go? Shall we move on to the next word? Oblivious. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level word, oblivious. Story: The Missed Signal. Ella was walking through the park, listening to music and smiling at the sunshine. She was completely oblivious to the man behind her waving her dropped wallet. He called out, but she stayed oblivious, dancing to her playlist and enjoying the day. Finally, he caught up and tapped her shoulder. She laughed and said, "I was so oblivious. I didn't even hear you." Vocabulary: oblivious. Meaning in this story: not aware of what is happening around you. Think of it like having your headphones on and missing everything going on, even when someone is talking to you. Follow-up question: can you remember a time when you were completely oblivious to something important around you? Would you like to go ahead with the next word, inadvertently? Here's a short story using the C1 level word, inadvertently. Story: The Text. Jake inadvertently sent a message to the wrong group chat. He meant to text his friend, but it went to his boss, and it had a joke about work. Panicking, he inadvertently made it worse by replying again too fast, trying to explain. Later, his boss laughed and said, "Don't worry, Jake. You inadvertently gave me my first smile today." Vocabulary: inadvertently. Meaning in this story: by mistake, without meaning to do it. Think of it like spilling your drink because you weren't looking. It wasn't on purpose. It just happened. Follow-up question: have you ever inadvertently sent a message or said something to the wrong person? What happened? Want to continue with the next word? Discerning. Here's your next short story using the C1 level word, discerning. Story: The Coffee Choice. Nina opened her cafe in a small town. At first, people came just for regular drinks, but one discerning customer asked, "Do you use single origin beans?" She smiled and said yes. Over time, more discerning coffee lovers showed up, noticing the quality, the flavors, the details. Now her cafe is known as the place for discerning people who care about what's in every cup. Vocabulary: discerning, adjective. Meaning in this story: having good taste or judgment, especially when noticing small but important differences. Think of it like a person who doesn't just eat chocolate. They know which brand, how dark, and even the origin of the cocoa. Follow-up question: are you discerning about anything? Like music, food, fashion, or something else? Would you like to go ahead with the next word? Bear the brunt? Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level phrase bear the brunt. Story: the late project. When the team missed the deadline, everyone was quiet, except Alex. He decided to bear the brunt and explain to the manager. The manager wasn't happy. Alex stayed calm, even as he had to bear the brunt of the anger alone. Later, his teammates thanked him. "You didn't have to bear the brunt like that," one said, "but you really protected all of us." Vocabulary: bear the brunt. Meaning in this story: to receive the worst part of something unpleasant, like blame, pain, or stress. Think of it like standing in the front during a storm while others stay behind you. You feel the hit first and hardest. Follow-up question: have you ever had to bear the brunt of something that wasn't completely your fault? Ready to move on to the next phrase: allude to. Here's a new under 60-second story using the C1 level phrase allude to. Story: the interview hint. During the job interview, the manager didn't say the company was in trouble, but she did allude to recent challenges and tight budgets. Later, when asked about career growth, she alluded to the idea that promotions might take longer than usual. After the interview, Jake told his friend, she didn't say anything directly, but she definitely alluded to some big changes coming. Vocabulary: allude to. Phrase: meaning in this story: to mention something in an indirect way, without saying it clearly or openly. Think of it like talking about an elephant without saying the word elephant, just describing the big gray thing in the room. Follow-up question: can you think of a time when someone alluded to something but didn't say it directly? Did you catch the hint? Would you like to continue with the next word? Candid. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level word candid. Story: the honest review. After the play ended, Maya asked her friend what he thought. He gave a candid answer. The actors were great, but the story was weak. Maya liked how candid he was. No sugarcoating, just the truth. Later, the director asked Maya for feedback. She decided to be candid too, sharing what really worked and what didn't. Vocabulary: meaning in this story: being honest and direct, even if it's not easy or comfortable. Think of it like a friend who tells you your haircut isn't great, not to be mean, but because you trust their honesty. Follow-up question: do you prefer candid feedback, or do you like people to be more careful with their words? Shall we move on to the next word? Gauge. Here's your under 60-second story using the C1 level word gauge. Story: the first day. On her first day at the new job, Layla tried to gauge the team's mood. Were they friendly? Were they serious? She smiled and joked during lunch, just to gauge how relaxed the office really was. By the end of the day, she could gauge that this was a fun but hardworking group, and she felt right at home. Vocabulary: gauge. Meaning in this story: to measure or judge something, like feelings, reactions, or situations. Think of it like looking at the sky to gauge whether you need an umbrella. You're not 100% sure, but you're making a careful guess. Follow-up question: do you try to gauge people's moods when you walk into a new place or meet new people? Would you like to go on with the next phrase? Take something in stride. Here's your next short story featuring the C1 level phrase, take something in stride. Story: the broken presentation. Sam's presentation crashed right in the middle of the meeting. Everyone froze, but Sam just smiled and took it in stride. He calmly restarted his laptop and continued, even making a joke about it. People laughed. He really knew how to take things in stride. Later, his boss said, "I was impressed with how you took that in stride." Most people would have panicked. Vocabulary: take something in stride, meaning in this story, to stay calm and deal with a problem without getting upset or stressed. Think of it like walking through a puddle without losing your balance. You keep going smoothly, even when something goes wrong. Follow-up question. Have you ever had to take something in stride when things didn't go your way? Ready for the next phrase. On a whim. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level phrase on a whim. Story: the road trip. Jess bought a train ticket on a whim. No plan, no reason. She just felt like seeing the mountains. She packed a bag, grabbed some snacks, and left the city on a whim, smiling the whole way. By sunset, she was sitting by a lake, thinking some of the best things happen on a whim. Vocabulary. Meaning in this story: doing something suddenly, without planning or deep thought, just because you feel like it. Ielts. Think of it like your heart saying let's go before your brain even has time to ask why. Follow-up question. Have you ever done something on a whim that turned out better than expected? Shall we go on with the next word? Foster. Here's your next short, under 60-second story using the C1 level word, foster. Story: the club. When Mia joined the art club, it was quiet and unorganized. She wanted to foster more creativity and teamwork. She started group projects to foster new ideas and helped everyone feel welcome to share. A few months later, the club was full of energy. Mia had helped foster a space where people felt inspired. Vocabulary. Foster, meaning in this story, to help something grow or develop, like ideas, relationships, or creativity. Think of it like planting a seed and caring for it every day so it grows strong. That's how you foster something. Follow-up question. Have you ever helped foster something positive, like a friendship, a team, or a skill? Want to continue with the next word, resilient. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level word, resilient. Story: the runner. Liam injured his leg a month before the big race. Everyone thought he'd quit, but he was resilient. Every day, he stretched, trained gently, and stayed focused. His coach said, "You're more resilient than most athletes I've seen." On race day, Liam didn't win, but he finished strong, smiling, proud, and still resilient. Vocabulary: resilient. Meaning in this story: able to recover quickly after difficulties or setbacks. Think of it like a rubber ball that bounces back no matter how hard it hits the ground. That's resilient. Follow-up question. Can you think of a time when you had to be resilient in a tough situation? Would you like to continue with the next word? Reap the benefits. Here's your next short story using the C1 level phrase, reap the benefits. Story: the early riser. For 6 months, Aisha woke up at 5 a.m. to read, exercise, and plan her day. It was hard at first, but she believed she would reap the benefits. Soon, her focus improved, her stress went down, and she started to reap the benefits in both her work and health. Now, when people ask how she stays so calm and productive, she smiles and says, "I just reap the benefits of a good morning routine." Reap the benefits. Meaning in this story: to get good results from something you worked hard for or invested time in. Think of it like planting seeds in spring and enjoying the fruit in summer. You reap the benefits after effort and patience. Follow-up question. Is there something you're working on now that you hope to reap the benefits of later? Shall we move on to the next word? Dispel. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level word, dispel. Story: the first day nerves. On her first day of teaching, Claire was nervous. She thought the students wouldn't listen, but a smile from one girl helped dispel her fear. As she started the lesson and saw everyone paying attention, it began to dispel the doubts in her mind. By the end of the class, her confidence grew, and all her worries were completely dispelled. Vocabulary: dispel. Meaning in this story: to make a feeling or thought go away, especially something negative like fear, doubt, or worry. Think of it like turning on a light to dispel the darkness. The bad feeling disappears when something positive takes over. Follow-up question. Can you remember a time when something helped dispel your fear or nervousness? Would you like to move on to the next word? Adversity. Here's your next short story using the C1 level word adversity. Story: The climb. During the mountain hike, the team faced real adversity: heavy rain, cold wind, and tired legs. One person wanted to quit, but their guide said, "Adversity makes the view even more meaningful." They kept going, helping each other through every bit of adversity, and finally reached the top, wet, exhausted, but proud. Vocabulary: adversity. Meaning in this story: a difficult or unpleasant situation, often something that tests your strength or patience. Think of it like climbing a steep, rocky path. The challenge is the adversity, and getting through it makes you stronger. Follow-up question: what kind of adversity have you faced that made you stronger in the end? Would you like to continue with the next phrase? Go the extra mile. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level phrase, go the extra mile. Story: the birthday surprise. Ben's coworker mentioned her birthday in passing. Most people forgot, but Ben decided to go the extra mile. He bought her favorite cake, decorated her desk, and even got everyone to sign a card. She was shocked. No one had ever gone the extra mile like that for her. Later, their boss said, "Ben, your kindness shows what it means to go the extra mile at work." The vocabulary: go the extra mile. Meaning in this story: to do more than what's expected, to put in extra effort to help or make someone feel special. Think of it like you're running a race and it ends at 10 miles, but you choose to run 11 just to show extra heart. Follow-up question: when was the last time someone went the extra mile for you, or you did for someone else? Shall we move on to the next phrase? Bring something to the table. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level phrase, bring something to the table. Story: the group project. When the class got a group project, everyone looked at Zoe and said, "You always bring something to the table." She smiled and suggested a smart plan right away. Later, when they got stuck, she came up with a new idea. Again, she brought something to the table. After they finished, the teacher said, "Each of you brought something to the table," and it really showed in your teamwork. Vocabulary: bring something to the table. Phrase: meaning in this story: to offer something useful, like a skill, idea, or quality, especially in a team or group setting. Think of it like everyone's sitting around a dinner table and each person adds something to the meal. That's how you bring something to the table. Follow-up question: what's one thing you always bring to the table when working with others? Shall we continue with the next word? Juggle. Here's your next short, under 60-second story using the C1 level word juggle. Story: the busy week. Maria had to juggle her full-time job, night classes, and taking care of her little brother, all in the same week. She made lists, set alarms, and stayed calm. It wasn't easy, but she managed to juggle everything without falling behind. By Friday, her friend said, "I don't know how you juggle so much and still smile." Vocabulary: meaning in this story: to handle several different things at the same time, especially tasks, roles, or responsibilities. Think of it like a performer tossing balls in the air without letting any drop. That's what it feels like when you juggle a busy life. Follow-up question: do you ever have to juggle many things at once? How do you stay balanced? Shall we go on to the next word? Reinforce. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level word reinforce. Story: the class rule. In Miss Taylor's classroom, being kind was the #1 rule. Every day, she tried to reinforce that with little reminders. She used posters, stories, and praise to reinforce kindness again and again. One day, a student helped another who was upset. Miss Taylor smiled. Her message was starting to reinforce itself. Vocabulary: reinforce. Meaning in this story: to make something stronger or clearer, especially a message, rule, or habit, by repeating or supporting it. Think of it like adding bricks to a wall to make it stronger. Every time you repeat a message, you reinforce it. Follow-up question: what's something you try to reinforce in your daily life, maybe with your friends, family, or yourself? Shall we continue with the next word? Trigger. Here's your next short, under 60-second story using the C1 level word trigger. Story: the surprise party. When Sam walked into the room, the bright decorations and loud cheers triggered a flood of memories from his childhood birthday parties. The unexpected surprise triggered a warm feeling in his heart, reminding him how much he was loved. Later, when his friend asked about his smile, Sam said, "These little surprises really trigger my happiest memories." Vocabulary. Trigger. Verb. Meaning in this story, to cause something to happen, especially an emotion or reaction, often suddenly. Think of it like pulling a lever that sets off a chain reaction. One small act can trigger many other feelings or events. Follow-up question. What kind of events or surprises have ever triggered a strong memory or emotion for you? Would you like to proceed with the next word? Mitigate. Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level word mitigate. Story: The Rainy Day Plan. The outdoor event was almost canceled because of heavy rain, but to mitigate the impact, the team brought in tents and heaters. They also handed out free umbrellas to mitigate the cold and wet feeling for the guests. By the end, people were still dancing and laughing. Smart choices had helped mitigate the situation beautifully. Vocabulary. Mitigate. Meaning in this story, to reduce the bad effects of something, to make a problem or situation less harmful or painful. Think of it like putting on a raincoat doesn't stop the rain, but it helps you stay dry. That's how you mitigate a problem. Follow-up question. Can you think of a time when you tried to mitigate a difficult or unexpected situation? Shall we move on to the next word? Compelling. Let's do a new short story using the C1 level word fathom. Story. The news. When Layla heard that her quiet neighbor had climbed Mount Everest, she couldn't fathom it. He never even talked about hiking. She looked at the photos, still trying to fathom how someone so calm and private could do something so wild. Even hours later, she shook her head and said, "I just can't fathom it." Vocabulary. Fathom. Meaning in this story, to understand something deeply, especially when it's surprising or hard to believe. Think of it like trying to measure the depth of the ocean with your eyes. Some things are just too deep to easily fathom. Follow-up question. Have you ever heard something that you just couldn't fathom at first? What was it? Would you like to keep going with the next word? Let's keep going. Here's your next short story using the C1 level word elusive. Story. Shot. Jake had been trying for months to photograph a wild fox, but it was always too quick, too quiet, just too elusive. One morning, he finally saw it near the trees. He lifted his camera, but again, the elusive fox vanished like smoke. Later, he told his friend, "That one photo stays elusive, no matter how early I wake up." Vocabulary. Elusive. Meaning in this story, something that is hard to catch, find, or achieve, even when you try again and again. Think of it like trying to catch a feather in the wind. No matter how close it gets, it slips away. That's what elusive feels like. Follow-up question. Is there something in your life that feels elusive? A goal, a dream, or even a quiet weekend? Would you like the next word to be scrutinize? Here's your next under 60-second story using the C1 level word scrutinize. Story. The mystery box. When Maya received a strange box with no name or note, she started to scrutinize every part of it. The handwriting, the tape, even the stamp. She called her brother to help, and together they continued to scrutinize the box for clues. Finally, after they scrutinized the bottom, they found a tiny message. "Happy birthday, from your secret friend." Vocabulary. Scrutinize. Meaning in this story, to look at something very carefully, especially to find details or hidden meaning. Think of it like using a magnifying glass to study something tiny. When you scrutinize something, you don't just look, you study it closely. Follow-up question. Can you remember a time when you had to scrutinize something before making a decision? Would you like the next word to be plausible? Here's your next short story using the C1 level word plausible. Story. The excuse. Tom arrived late to work and said his cat had unplugged his alarm clock. It didn't sound very plausible, but he told it with a straight face. His manager raised an eyebrow. Is that even plausible?" she asked, half laughing. Later, a coworker whispered, "If you want your excuse to work, at least make it sound plausible." Vocabulary. Plausible, meaning in this story, something that sounds reasonable or believable, even if it might not be true. Think of it like a story that could happen. It may not be real, but it sounds just real enough to make you pause. Follow-up question. What's the most plausible excuse you've ever given or heard that turned out not to be true? Want to go ahead with the next word, mundane. Here's your next short story using the C1 level word mundane. Story, The Magic in Monday. Ella used to think Mondays were always mundane. Same emails, same coffee, same slow meetings. But this time, her coworker turned the day into fun with music, snacks, and a surprise game. Even the most mundane tasks felt exciting. By the end of the day, Ella smiled and said, "Maybe the problem wasn't Monday, maybe it was how I saw the mundane." Vocabulary. Adjective, meaning in this story. Something ordinary, boring, or not exciting, part of daily life that feels repetitive. Think of it like washing dishes every day. It's not special or thrilling. That's a mundane task. Follow-up question. What's one mundane task in your life that you wish felt a bit more fun or meaningful? Would you like the next word to be contemplate? Here's your next short under 60-second story using the C1 level word contemplate. Story, The Offer. Nina got a job offer in another country. It was exciting but also scary. She needed time to contemplate the big change. She sat by the lake, letting herself contemplate all the what-ifs. New friends, new culture, new risks. After a few quiet hours, she felt ready. "I've had time to contemplate it," she said, "and I'm going." Vocabulary contemplate, meaning in this story, to think deeply about something, especially a big decision or future plan. Think of it like looking at your reflection in still water. When you contemplate, you're kind of focused, exploring your thoughts. Follow-up question. What's something you've had to contemplate carefully before taking action? Would you like to continue with the next word? Articulate? Here's your next short story using the C1 level word articulate. Story, The Class Speaker. During a debate, Mia stood up to speak. She was nervous, but once she began, she managed to articulate her points clearly and confidently. The teacher smiled, noticing how well Mia could articulate her thoughts, even under pressure. After class, a friend said, "I wish I could articulate my ideas the way you do." Vocabulary. Articulate, meaning in this story, to express thoughts or ideas clearly, especially by speaking. Think of it like putting puzzle pieces together so others can see the full picture. When you articulate, you help others understand what's in your mind. Follow-up question. Do you find it easy or hard to articulate your thoughts when you're speaking to a group? Why? Would you like to go on to the next word, leverage?